Hello and welcome. I'm Rachel and I like to help people find a sense of calm. I created this channel to share tips and tools for mental health and well-being and voice techniques for meditation and healing. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the value of self-care. I've noticed in my counselling practice that self-care gets a bad name. People think that self-care is selfish. And actually the opposite is true. We actually all have a responsibility to look after ourselves. I like to use the analogy of a bucket. We all have a bucket, we all have our own bucket. And we have a responsibility to fill our bucket. And the way we fill our bucket is by looking after ourselves. So the type of stuff that goes in our bucket is fresh air and exercise, good food, drinking water, good quality sleep. But also, in addition to that, that's your kind of self-care basics that go in the bucket. But in addition to that, what needs to go in the bucket are things that feed you, that you really enjoy doing. And what I've noticed for some people, for example, clients that I have that come after retirement, they have no idea how to fill their bucket. They have no idea how to bring themselves pleasure from a craft or something creative or something musical or a hobby, or for many people they fall into a bit of a depression because they find themselves drifting along because all the structure's gone and they have never thought about actually doing something for themselves that makes them feel good. So sometimes, to find that thing, we have to go right back to childhood and think about what type of things did we really like doing. Maybe people said to us things like, oh, it's no good doing that, you'll never be able to make any money doing that. Or, the kind of, that's a bit immature, you can't do that, It's precisely those things, you're painting or you're trying to play the flute or anything, literally the only important criteria is that you enjoy it, that it brings you pleasure, and also that the only reason you're doing it is for you. Because again, in my experience as a counsellor, what I've noticed is from a very young age, so we start off obviously quite normally and naturally trying to please our parents. This is normal and natural. But then what happens in modern society is we go to school, we then are intent on pleasing our teachers. And then we go to work and we're expected to please all our bosses. So all of our points of reference, if you like, are all external. It's all looking to someone else. How am I doing? How am I doing? Am I doing okay? And that kind of leaves us empty. Our sense of self becomes diminished. Whereas when we can put stuff in our own bucket, what I've noticed is that when people start doing things for themselves and filling their bucket with good things that they enjoy, up comes self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, and the overall sense of self becomes more intact and more important and more of a priority. And actually, to think of looking after yourself as selfish is a mistake, because actually when we really look after ourselves, we're not needy. So in terms of going into a relationship, if we're really looking after ourselves and filling our own bucket and we feel good about ourselves, that's way more attractive to go into a relationship than somebody that's needy because their bucket is empty. So, try and think about what you could do for yourself that you enjoy doing. And it's very much about the process. For example, I like to paint. I'm no good at painting. The result is pretty rubbish, and often ends up in the bin. And that used to put me off doing it. But now I've learned that the value for me is in the process of splashing about the paint and just being creative and being in the moment and giving myself permission to play. You know, all of those things help and they make me feel better. And you will discover the same. If you take away putting the emphasis on the result and just enjoy the process for the sake of it, you just feel better, and you won't, if you can let go of that result, you don't have that kind of disappointment. It's not about the result, it's about the process, the having fun. So, literally kind of think of taking the lid off the toy box. Doesn't matter what you do, anything, you can do anything. It's for you because you want to do it. It's going to put stuff in your bucket. And just as a final kind of note, there's a video on here about deep belly breathing. Deep belly breathing, spending 5 minutes of doing deep belly breathing, or indeed a similar breathing technique, or a really good meditation where you're absolutely engaged, that is like putting gold bullion in your bucket. It's worth so much to you because it brings you back to a kind of place of neutral where you can move forwards with your day. And all of these things, all the bucket filling, the self-care, the breath work, all of them get you out of your head. We're not meant to reside in our head, in amongst that head stuff. And the thing about that head stuff, it doesn't matter how many hours, days, weeks you spend up there, it's never going to help. It's like a cesspit, it's just mind stuff. Very different when you are in charge and you can engage your mind to use for visualization or to solve a problem, or that's a different thing. That's when you're in charge of your mind and using it as a tool. But what tends to happen to a lot of us is the mind becomes in charge and it kind of is leading us. It's you're going to be in your head today. Oh, I've got you. You're going to stay stuck. But actually that's just a habit. And through these bucket filling things and breath work and the voice work, we can begin to create gaps in that head, that mind stuff, and get out of our head and back into our body and into the present. And the more we create those gaps, the more or the less hold that mind stuff has over you, the less inclined to pull you back in. Another analogy is something called monkey mind. So you've got this naughty monkey who keeps climbing up your back and he sits on your shoulder and he's, have you thought about this yet? What did you do the other day? And that was rubbish, and you're a bit rubbish really, aren't you? And yeah, you're just lazy, and you're, that mind stuff that just talks to you. Every time you do your deep belly breathing and you keep coming back to the breath, or you do the voice work and you're actively listening, or you're doing your creative work and you're present, you're putting that naughty monkey on the floor. And the more times you put the monkey on the floor, eventually he can't be bothered to climb back up again. So it's like you strengthen a mental muscle to do with getting it out of your head. So there we are. I just wanted to kind of explain the value of self-care. It is not selfish, it's the opposite of selfish. And especially at the moment, the most important thing you can do to help both yourself and everybody in your immediate kind of environment is look after yourself the very best you can. Look after yourself. Put stuff in your bucket. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as you enjoy it and it gives you pleasure and it engages you, spend time doing it. So there we are. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back very soon making some more sounds probably. And I hope you'll join me. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.